So now I'll be solving the first question of educational Codeforces round 128. In this question, we have to form a beautiful array. Now, an array is beautiful if it follows the two conditions. First condition is that the frequency of the minimum element is between L1 and R1. And the second condition is that the frequency of the maximum element is between L2 and R2. Also, we need to form a beautiful array which contains the minimum possible number of elements. So we are given L1 R1 and L2 R2 as our input. So there will be simply two cases. The first case is that the ranges L1 R1 and L2 R2 are overlapping. If the ranges are overlapping, then the optimal approach is that the minimum value should be equals to the maximum value. Say 1 is the minimum and maximum value. We'll take 4 ones, which is the minimum or the maximum of L1 and L2. This will be our answer. Let's suppose if we reduce the number of values, which is we make the number of values as 3, then this condition will be violated, and if we increase the number of ones, then the solution will not be optimal. So the optimal approach is that the answer should be the maximum of L1 and L2. Now the other case, if the two ranges are non-overlapping or they are disjoint, then the answer will be the sum of the lower bounds of the two frequencies, which is L1 plus L2, because here the minimum and maximum value cannot be equal. Let's suppose we take 6 ones in this case as we did in the first one. So the first condition will be violated because the number of minimum value cannot exceed 5. So this approach is not viable here. The number of ones or the number of minimum value should be the lower bound of the frequency of minimum values. Similarly, the number of maximum values should be the lower bound of the maximum values. So let's suppose 2 is our maximum value, so it should be 6 times. So in this case, the answer is 9, which is the sum of the lower bounds of the two ranges. Okay. So it is a very simple question. Now I'll code it. For simplicity, I'll take the input in a pair, in 2 pairs. Okay, now I'll store the minimum pair or the smaller pair in P1 and the larger pair in P2. So if P1 is greater than P2, then we'll swap the two values. So the larger pair is in P2 now. Now if P2 dot first is greater than P1 dot second, in this case the two ranges are non-overlapping or disjoint. So in that case, our answer was the sum of the lower bound of the ranges. And in the other case, the answer was the lower bound of the larger pair. Okay, it should be P2 dot first. So now I'll test the program on the sample cases. Okay, so it seems to be working fine, so I'll submit it. Okay, so the code is accepted.